Rhynhardt, it seems that, as we said earlier, it's pretty much a case of buy on the rumour, sell on the news, playing out in the markets today. We still ended on a positive note, but your views on the market reaction to Greece's second bailout?
Look, I think that you're absolutely right. I think normally these things are known kind of well in advance, and I don't think there were many market participants that was very surprised by the Greece bailout. I think it was fairly inevitable, and that is, I suppose, part of the reason why markets have been actually rallying relatively strongly this kind of year to date. Now, I suppose the question is going forward, if they are possible to meet their medium to longer term financing requirements, because we must remember that this 130 billion euros is kind of more of a shorter term nature. And I'm not completely convinced yet. I think there's a lot of issues still in Europe, not only in Greece, which is a relatively small player, but also in Italy, Spain, Portugal and France. We all know what the issues are. And I would say that we're just in for a very slow, sluggish growth environment in Europe for the foreseeable future. But in the short term, a lot of the risks have been taken away. The banking system certainly has been fixed due to the LTRO in December, and then kind of Greece has now been dealt with, but we're certainly not out of the woods yet.
I've got Whitey Bazan, CEO of Shoprite, standing by to take us through the numbers in a while. But of course, we saw Shoprite's price reacting well to the interim numbers. First half HEPS coming in at 280 cents, a share that was up by just over 15%. Did you like the numbers?
Yes, certainly. I think it was a very good result, and I think we must also bear in mind that the South African economy in this period also didn't really do fantastically well. And I think Shoprite's numbers really just speaks to the fact that they are exposed to the right areas of the market. They are in that lower end that has benefited significantly from real wage increases due to government. They are certainly benefiting from the subsidies from government. So overall, I think a fantastic performance, and they certainly have to be commended. It's an exceptionally well-run company. So shareholders have certainly enjoyed a fantastic run. But I think if I kind of look at it from an investor's perspective right now, will I go out today and perhaps buy Shoprite shares? I think it's a little bit more difficult because in absolute terms, if you just look at the price to earnings multiples, yes, it is very high. It is north of 20 times, and if you have to compare that to the historic average, it is certainly well above the norms. But having said that, if you compare that to a global context, to where kind of global emerging market retailers are trading, it kind of doesn't really look very expensive. But that's not to say that global emerging market retailers are not overvalued. So I think that the jury is still out on that one, but nonetheless, I think I think it has been a very good result. They continue to do well. They continue to actually take market share, and management has to be commended.
And being able to pass on prices there to consumers. Let's look at Aspen's trading update. Stock reacting well to that, just over 1% to the good today, 105 Rand. We've got a forecast for first half HEPS to be between 17 and 23% higher. It seems this pretty much better than the market was anticipating.
Yeah, I think perhaps slightly better. I think we must bear in mind that this is, I think, only their first half, so I think that the second half could be maybe marginally slower. And I think that Aspen is also one of those companies that has really managed to just transform itself, from a really SA-focused company to a true global player, and that over 50% of their revenues now actually come from non-South African countries. So they continue to go from strength to strength. I know that the Australian assets have really performed very well. Some of the emerging market brands, they continue to also really do very well. The SA business, I would say, is probably the area of the portfolio that is maybe struggling a little bit. They've actually had a relatively difficult year in that they lost one of their major contracts. I think it was a milk, like an infant formula supply contract. But going forward into next year, I think again that maybe the SA business will actually have a slightly better year. So if I had to look at Aspen on a 2 to 3 year view, it is probably the type of company that will be able to grow earnings by about 15 to 20%. They still want to grow. They want to make further acquisitions. It's certainly a very exciting business and very well managed.
A company where we've got question marks around sustainability of earnings growth is Supergroup. We saw 70% rise in first half profits coming through and being reported today. The stock hitting a 3-year high, rallying over 11% for the day. Do you think they can sustain this quantum of growth?
Look, it's quite hard to say, and I mean, you can't really, I suppose, mention Supergroup in terms of the quality of the type of business or the quality of the company, and you can't really like compare it to the likes of a Shoprite or to an Aspen, what we have just spoken of. However, you know, it is a company with a very checkered past. You will remember that they had that massive rights issue at close to about R2 a share, but yet the share price has done very well and is now trading well north of like R10 a share. With regards to sustainability of earnings, I think that you have to bear in mind that roughly about a third of the group turnover is not in SA. It's mainly in Africa, and then they have a fleet management business in like Australia, which actually does very well. But with regard to the African operations, you know, that has finally turned around now. I think helped firstly by obviously the slightly weaker rand towards the second half of last year, but they're very much exposed to that kind of mining, like commodity type of countries. And with a high level of like commodity prices, that type of logistical business is certainly doing a lot better. And if I look at the type of mining capex numbers that are kind of being like announced by some of the major companies, I think that they will probably have a relatively good year or two that lies like ahead of them.
Rhynhardt, we're going to have to wrap it there. Unfortunately,
it's not really growing very fast, but also doing well.
Okay, but generally bullish on the outlook for Supergroup, it seems. Rhynhardt, we'll leave it there for today.